This is our 1.5. This is a bunch of problems from your homework, and then I changed some things, but I just wanted to make it relevant to your quiz tomorrow. Your first quiz of quarter 2 is tomorrow in section 1.5. So everybody understand that. You're aware of that. You're going to have 6 problems, but it's really going to be 12 because you have to check every solution to make sure it works. So for number 1, it's going to give you the problem. You're going to work it out, get x equals something. And then number 2 is going to be to check it. So yes, you have to check it. You have to show me your work. I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. What I put right here is super important, guys. When you are asked to solve and check for extraneous solutions are ones that don't work. When you plug it back in, it makes the equation not true. Just right there, Ben. So look, I gave you guys some hints. Solve and check the problems. The solutions that don't work are called extraneous. Cross them out. I want you guys to understand that if a solution doesn't work, like I plug in, I got x equals 1, I plug it in, and when I plug it in, it doesn't make the equation true, it's extraneous. Another form of an extraneous solution would be if you get an imaginary answer. If you got your answer was plus or minus 3i, you can cross that out right away and say, oh, that's extraneous. So make sure you guys understand that. Let's look at this first one right here. You'll have a problem that looks very similar to this on your test tomorrow, so let's make sure we understand what we're doing. The first thing you have to do is you have to get the square root all by itself. Is it all by itself? Is there anything being added or subtracted to that square root? No. So how do I get a square root to go away? You square it. If I square one side, I have to do what? Square the other side. Guys, look how I put 2x in parentheses. On the left-hand side here, when I square a square root, it goes away. So I have 4 minus 6x. What do I have on the right-hand side? Why is it 4x squared? Good. Where does that 2 go? It goes to both. So you're going to have equals 4x squared. So guys, look, I have an x squared and an x. That means this is a quadratic, so I need to move everything to one side. So I'm going to move the 4 and the negative 6. So I'm going to have 4x squared. When I move negative 6 over, it becomes positive 6x. When I move positive 4, it becomes negative 4. And I set it equal to 0. Now, this is just a basic solving problem. When first thing we look for, if I have a quadratic, I look for the GCF. Good. What can I take out of 4, 6, and 4? 2. So when I do that, I'm left with 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 0. Question?
How come the 4x is still squared?
Right here?
Yeah.
Because I didn't do anything with it.
I thought, did you turn the 2x into the square though?
Yeah, 2x, we squared it. We didn't take the square root.
Oh.
2 squared is 2, and x squared is x squared. So now, guys, let's factor. What are the factors of negative 4 that multiply to give me negative 4 but add to give me positive 3? What are the factors of 4, guys? 2 and 2 or? 1 and 4. So what combination would give me a negative 4 when I multiply, but a positive 3 when I add it?
Positive 4, negative 4.
Good. So plus 4, negative 1. Remember, our a term is not 1. So I'm just going to put the 2 underneath here. You can put it in the front if you want to, see if you can factor anything out. But I'm left with 2. 4 divided by 2 is what?
2.
So x plus 2. And then what happens with the 1/2? Where does that 2 go?
To the front.
To the front. So 2x minus 1 equals 0. So now, how do I find out what x equals?
Set it equal to 0.
Set everything equal to 0. So I have 2 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, and 2x minus 1 equals 0. So in this first case, 2 equals 0. Is that true?
No.
Nope. Cross it out. In the second case, x plus 2 equals 0. What does x equal?
Negative.
X equals good, negative 2. And then 2x minus 1 equals 0. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. 2x equals 1. Then do what? Divide by 2. So I get x equals 1/2. Now, before you just circle them and say, hey, I'm done, what do we have to do?
Plug them back in.
We have to check. We got to plug it back in. And I will get number 2. Next to number 1, we'll say check. So you got the first part done. Now you have to go back and do the second part. So the first thing that is the most important, can you guys please reread the problem to me correctly? What is the problem? What did I start with originally? Square root of 4 minus 6x equals what?
Equals 2x.
2x, just 2x. So now we take our x's and we plug them back in. So I got x equals negative 2. And what else did I get? X equals what?
X equals
1/2, okay? And we simply plug in. So I have square root of 4 minus 6 times negative 2. Does that equal 2 times negative 2? Order of operations, guys.
6 times 2.
It's, okay, so negative 6 and negative 2 is?
Positive 12.
So I have 4 plus 12. What is 2 times negative 2?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. Well, I have the square root of 16 equals negative 4. What is the square root of 16? I didn't put the square root on. It's already there. What's the square root of 16? 4. Does that equal negative 4?
No.
Yes or no? No. So what do you know about the solution x equals 2?
It's extraneous.
It's extraneous. Good. It doesn't work. So you would come over here and you cross it out. Tell me. If you want to, just tell me it's extra. I know what you mean. Extraneous, if you don't know how to spell it. But do you see how we got an answer? But when we plugged it back in, it did make the equation true. So now we're going to do the same thing.
Wouldn't it be negative 4?
All right, so now we're going to do the same thing. And yes, we have to plug in a fraction. That's okay, though. 4 minus 6 times 1/2 equals 2 times 1/2. So before you say, oh my gosh, fractions are so hard. Guys, what is 6 times 1/2? 3. So you have square root of 4 minus 3 equals, what is 2 times 1/2? 1. So I have the square root of 1 equals 1. What's the square root of 1? 1. Does 1 equal 1? So what do you know about 1/2? It is true. It's a solution. So how many solutions do you have to this problem?
1.
Just 1. But that's what you're going to be expected to do on your quiz tomorrow. You're going to have 6 problems. I have a lot more problems on here than that. I understand that. But let's just work through. This is the same kind of problem. What I told you at the beginning is circle your square root. You need to get that by itself. You just can't square root both sides. You have to get that by itself first. Is the square root of 2x plus 16 alone on one side? No. What does it have next to it? The what? The plus 4. So what do I have to do? Subtract 4. So watch, when I do this, I have the square root of 2x plus 16 equals x minus 4. Now is my square root by itself. So now what do I do? Square both sides. Guys, look, when I square both sides, you have to square everything. You don't just square the 4. So this goes away. I have 2x plus 6 equals, what does that mean to have x minus 4 squared?
There's x minus 4 and x plus 4.
Not plus. You have two of the same one, but good thought. So I have x minus 4 times what? X minus 4. Well, how do we simplify that? This is 16. Thank you. Very important that you get the numbers right. So let's FOIL. What's x times x? X squared. What's x times negative 4?
Negative 4x.
Okay. What's negative 4 times x?
Negative 4x.
Good. Negative 4, negative 4. Positive 16. So let's clean it up a little bit. 2x plus 16 on the left-hand side. X squared minus, what's 4 and 4? So 8, negative 8x plus 16. Now, guys, you have a quadratic here. You have an x squared and an x. As soon as we see that, that means move everything to one side. I want to keep x squared positive, so I'm going to move 2x over, and I'm going to move 16. Why did I subtract both of them? Because they're both positive. Great. So look, I'm going to put negative 2x under the 8 and a negative 16 under the 16. So this cancels out. So I have x squared. What is negative 8 and negative 2? Negative 10 x. Then what happens with positive 16, negative 16? It cancels out. So I have equals 0. Do we know how to solve this?
Yeah.
Yeah. What could I take out of both of those? What do they both have in common? X. So I can say x, and then what am I left with?
X minus 10x.
Perfect. Equals 0. So when I solve this, what do I do with each piece? Set it equal to 0. X equals 0. X minus 10 equals 0. So on the left-hand side, x equals 0. Do I have anything else to simplify? Nope. On the right-hand side, x minus 10 equals 0. So what does x really equal?
10.
Positive 10. How many solutions did I get? 2. Now, how do I make sure that both of them work? You got to plug them both back in. So, thank goodness Alexis caught me that I wrote the problem incorrectly, because then we would have done all that work for nothing. So, make sure when you go to do your check that you write everything correctly. So, it's the square root 2x plus 16, right? And then plus 4 is on the outside equals x. Is that correct? All right, so we're going to try x equals 0. And what was the other number we found? 10? Okay, so I have the square root 2 times 0 plus 16 plus 4. Does that equal 0? Well, what's 2 times 0? So I have the square root of 16 plus 4 equals 0. What's the square root of 16? 4. 4 plus 4 equals 0. Does 8 equal 0? No, it does not. So what do you know about x equals 0? It's extraneous. Guys, just because the last two have been like that doesn't mean every time you get x equals 0 that it's extraneous. So don't just assume. So now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to plug in 10. So I have the square root of 2 times 10 plus 16 plus 4. Does that equal 10? Well, 2 times 10 is what? Why'd I write that out like that? I have 20 plus 16 plus 4 equals 10. What's 20 plus 16? 36. What's the square root of 36? What's 6 plus 4? What do you know about 10 and 10? They're equal. So what do we know about the answer? X equals 10. It's true. It works.
Do we have to write whether it's true or not?
No, you can just circle it.
And we get to X if it's extraneous.
Excuse me?
We X it if it's extraneous.
Correct. All right, how do we feel? Okay. All right, you're going to have something like this on your quiz. I told you there was a special little way to do this to make this easier. Do not FOIL out x plus 6 squared and then distribute the -2. Don't do that. Let's make a little equation to make ourselves easier. Let's just, any number you want, I'm going to use, or letter you want, I'm going to use W. I'm going to say W is going to equal my parenthesis x plus 6. So I'm just going to factor this really easily, and then we'll just substitute back in. So instead of x plus 6, I'm putting W minus 2 times W minus 8 equals 0.
So why are you using W?
Just, you can use any letter, but just to make, because what this is this is something squared minus 2 times that same thing. So all it is just a little factoring problem. It makes this a lot easier for you to do instead of like multiplying x plus 6, and then doing all that, trying to solve it. So if I factor this, guys, what are the factors of -8 that multiply to give me -8 but add to give me -2?
2 and 4.
2 and 4, good. What are my signs? Very good.
+4. I mean -4.
-4 and -4, +2. Remember, because 2 negatives when you multiply give you a positive. So you have -4 plus 2. So how would I solve for W? What would I do? Set them both equal to 0. So W minus 4 equals 0. W plus 2 equals 0. So what does W equal on the left-hand side? 4. And what does W equal on the right-hand side? -2. Great. Are we trying to solve for W? No, we're trying to solve for what? What letter? X. Well, at the beginning, what did we say X equals? Sorry, not X, but what did we say W equals? X plus 6. So I'm just going to say, okay, well, X plus 6 in this case equals 4. And then over here, X plus 6 equals -2. Just makes our problem easier. So now if we solve this, subtract 6 from both sides, yes, so X equals -2. Over here, I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, and I get X equals -8. Do I know for sure that those two things work?
No.
So how do I figure it out? You're going to plug it back in. We're going to check. So I take my original problem, which is X plus 6 squared minus 2 times X plus 6 minus 8 equals 0. So I'm going to plug in Negative 2, negative 8. Right? You guys with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Christian. So watch. Negative 2 plus 6 squared minus 2 times negative 2 plus 6 minus 8. Does it equal 0? What is negative 2 plus 6?
4.
So 4 squared. What is negative 2 plus 6?
Wait, what?
What's negative 2 plus 6?
Oh, 4.
4. And then minus 8.
How can you not distribute it negative 2 first?
Parentheses first.
Oh.
I mean, you could, but it's just easier to do that. All right, what's 4 squared?
16.
16 minus what?
2.
No, what's 2 times 4? 8. Good. Minus 8 equals 0. What's 16 minus 8?
8.
8. What's 8 minus 8?
0.
Does this work?
Yeah.
Good job. So we know that. What do we just plug in?
X minus
Negative 2. So we know that negative 2 is a solution. And we do the same thing over here. And I'm going to plug in negative 8. So I have negative 8 plus 6 squared minus 2 times negative 8 plus 6 minus 8 equals 0. So again, guys, negative 8 plus 6. Negative 8 plus 6. Negative 2.
Negative 2.
Come on. Minus, what's negative 8 plus 6?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. Minus 8 equals 0. All right, negative 2 squared.
4.
4. Good. Negative 2 minus, times negative 2.
4.
Plus 4 minus 8 equals 0. What's 4 plus 4?
8.
8 minus 8 is?
0.
What do you notice here?
0.
Okay, look, guys, they both work. Good job. They both work. How do we feel?
Great.
Okay, good. I like it. I like it. All right. I'm going to try and get all of them done. Solving. What do we do?
Add.
No. What do we look for first? GCF. Good. What do they all have in common? X. So I'm left with x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. You guys are getting much better at factoring. What are the factors of negative 3 that multiply to give me negative 3 but add to give me negative 2?
3 and 1.
Perfect. What kind of 1? What kind of 3?
Negative 3, positive 1.
Negative 3, positive 1. Fantastic. So I have x equals 0. X minus 3 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. My 3 solutions are x equals 0. X equals 3. X equals negative 1. Great. Now, how do I know that any of these, all of these, one of these, two of these are right? You got to check it. You got to check it. You got to plug them in. I know this seems redundant, guys, but you need to do this. Some of these are going to be quicker than others. Again, I'm only giving you 6 problems. I'm not giving you a ton. But we're going to check x equals 0. What else do we find? X equals 3. And x equals negative 1? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So, look, this is an easy one. 0 cubed minus 2 times 0 squared minus 3 times 0, does it equal 0? Well, what's 0 cubed?
0.
0. What's negative 2 times 0 squared?
0.
0. And then what's negative 3 times 0?
0.
So, does 0 equal 0?
0.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, we're good. So, x equals 0 is a true solution. All right, let's plug in 3. So, I have 3 cubed minus 2 times 3 squared minus 3 times 3. Does that equal 0? What's 3 cubed? 27 minus 2 times 9 minus 9 equals 0. Agreed?
Mm-hmm.
What's 2 times 9?
18.
So I have 27 minus 18 minus 9. What's 27 minus 18? 9. What's 9 minus 9?
0.
Does 0 equal 0?
Yes.
Yay! All right, last one I'm going to plug in is what? Negative 1. So I have negative 1 cubed minus 2 times negative 1 squared minus 3 times negative 1. Does that equal 0? Negative 1 cubed. Negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1.
Isn't that 0?
Negative 1. Good.
Wait, what is the one where it's like something squared equals 0? I think it's like
Anything to the 0 power equals 1. All right, so I have negative 1 squared is
-1.
No, -1 squared is 1 times -2 gives me -2. What's a -3 and a -1?
-3.
No, negative times a negative is a positive. Good. So I have -3 plus 3 equals 0. 0 equals 0. What do I know? 0 equals 0. So x equals -1 is a solution. Yes? Okay, good. You guys are doing great. We're almost done. Kind of. Ooh, this one's a little tricky.
Take out x.
Hold on. Is everything on the same side?
No.
No. So I have x to the 8th plus 15x to the 4th minus 16 equals 0. Get everything to the same side. Guys, this is just a factoring problem. What would I have at the beginning of each parenthesis here?
X.
X to the what?
4.
Good. Very good. What are the factors of 16 that multiply to give me 16?
16 and 1.
Good. Very good. Positive 16, right? -1.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys good with that? Equals 0. Okay, let's just solve each of these. All right. If I solve this, I'm going to subtract 16, God bless you, from both sides, correct? So I have x to the 4th equals -16.
Take the 4.
Take the 4th root. Guys, can you take the square root of a negative number? No. Can you take the 4th root of a negative number? No. I would have here x equals plus or minus 2i. What did I tell you at the beginning about imaginary solutions? What did I tell you at the very beginning, up at the top? If I get an imaginary, it's extraneous. There's nothing to even plug in here. As soon as you get an I in your answer, just go, oh man, extraneous. So what about over here? I have x to the 4th minus 1 equals 0.
Add that 1.
So x to the 4th equals 1.
Take the 4.
Okay, if I take the 4th root of the left side, I do it to the right side. It's an even root, so I have plus or minus. What is the 4th root of 1?
1.
1. What number times itself 4 times gives you 1? 1. That's a real number. So can I check to make sure this is right? Absolutely.
Wait, but what do you do with the plus or minus?
It's this. What this is x equals 1 and x equals -1.
You have to plug them both in.
Yep. Good. So my equation was x to the 8th plus 15x to the 4th equals 16, right? So if I plug in x equals 1, well, what's 1 to the 8th power? Plus 15 times 1 to the 4th power. Guys, what's 1 to the 8th power? 1. Plus, what's 1 to the 4th power? 1 times 15?
So it'd be 17.
No.
Never mind, about you.
16 equals 16. So does 1 work?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's plug in -1. What's -1 to the 8th power?
Positive 1.
+1. What's -1 to the 4th power?
Positive.
+1. So I have 15 equals 16. 16 equals 16. What do we know about 1 and -1?
They are true.
They are both true. You can write it either way, I don't care. Plus or minus, or you can write x equals. But as soon as you see that it's an imaginary answer, what do? Cross it off. Tell me it's extraneous. Doesn't work.
Nope.
All right, let me scoot down to these. I'll come back to 40 if we have time, but it's kind of the same problem we've been doing. All right, x to the 4th minus 16
Add that 4.
equals 0. Okay, you can add 16 to both sides. Christian, I expect good results tomorrow. You're on it, kiddo. You can do it. All right, what do I notice here? I can take the what root? 4th root. If I do it on the right-hand side, I do it on the left-hand side, vice versa. So x equals, I have a plus or minus.
4.
What number times itself 4 times gives me 16? 2. So what do I do with +2 and -2? Plug it in. Guys, watch. I'll just do it right here. 2 to the 4th power minus 16 equals 0. -2 to the 4th power minus 16 equals 0. What's 2 to the 4th power? 16 minus 16 is 0. Does 0 equal 0? Yes. What's -2 to the 4th power? 16 minus 16 equals 0. Does 0 equal 0? Yes. So what do you know about positive, negative 2?
It's true.
They work. Some of your checks will be real easy, but you actually have to plug it in. If you could see right away, like the one that we had that we plugged in, it was all zeros. Okay, fine. Don't just tell me I did it in my head. If you don't write down your work, you're not going to get credit. So please make sure that you guys do that.
No, can you be honest with me right now?
Of course I
If it's
can.
plus or minus every time, is it always true?
Depend if the exponent's positive, yes. But do you see how like this one's negative? There's a 3. I'm not positive. I'm sorry, even.
Oh, so it's even, it's always positive.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. What do you guys notice about this one?
You can take out an X.
Can I take out an x out of all 4 of them?
Nope.
What are we doing? We have 4 terms. Group. Good.
That's not.
Okay. Here, if we group, I'm gonna group the first 2 and the second 2. What can I take out of the first 2? X squared. Good. I'm left with x plus 1. All right. Look at the second parenthesis. It's already what we want it to be. Well, we got to take something out. What can I take out of the second parenthesis? A 1. Good, Florian. I'm going to take out a positive 1. I'm still left with x plus 1. That's fine. So I have a new GCF of x plus 1. Once I take that out, what do I have left over? What do I have left over? X squared plus 1 equals 0. How do I solve this? Set everything equal to 0. Notice we're doing the exact same thing every single time. So if I'm going to solve this, guys, x plus 1, whoops, sorry. X plus 1 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, yes? So I got x equals negative 1. Agreed? All right, the second one, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. X squared equals negative 1. Good, Christian. If I square root, I have x equals, I have a square root of negative 1.
I.
It's imaginary. Soon as I see it's imaginary, what? It's extraneous. Good, it's extra. Good. So I only have one number to plug in, and that's negative 1. So let's go check it over here. X cubed plus x squared plus x plus 1. Does that equal 0? So we said negative 1, correct?
That is negative 1.
It's a lot of 1s. So negative 1 cubed is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. Then I have minus 1 plus 1, right? Correct? So negative 1 plus 1 minus 1 plus 1 is 0. Does 0 equal 0? So then I know that this solution is true. Good.
There time was they both won't be true.
Sometimes. I didn't do that to you guys tomorrow where there was no solution. But yeah, that could be. All right, let's do the last one. Let's do the last one. 4 terms. Do they all have something that I can take out?
And nope.
Nope. So I have 4 terms. What do? I group it. So I'm going to group the first 2 and the last 2. What can I take out of x cubed and x squared? X squared. Good. So I'm left with x plus 3. What can I take out of 9x plus 27? All right. What can I take out of 9x and 27? Positive 9, correct? So I'm left with x plus 3. So my new GCF is x plus 3. That comes out in front. What happens with the leftovers?
Negative.
X squared plus 9. Get their own parentheses. Good, Evan. So now I have x plus 3 equals 0. And x squared plus 9 equals 0. So solve them.
Subtract 3.
Okay? Subtract 3. So x equals negative 3. What about here? Subtract 9. So x squared equals negative 9. What do I do? Square root. What do you see right away that you should say, uh-oh? It's a negative underneath where? The square root. So this gives me an imaginary number. I want you guys to finish solving, but once you see that it's imaginary, what do we do? Cross it off, and you tell me it's extraneous. So I have one answer of negative 3. Let's plug it in and see what happens. We have x cubed plus 3x squared plus 9x plus 27 equals 0. Okay, so negative 3 cubed plus 3 times negative 3 squared plus 9 times negative 3 plus 27 equals 0. All right, so negative 3 cubed is what? 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is? Negative, good, Evan, 27. So then I have plus 3 times 9, right? And then what's 9 times negative 3? Negative 27 plus 27 equals 0.
27.
So negative 27 plus 27 minus 27 plus 27 equals 0. Guys, what does that equal?
0.
Good. 0 equals 0, so we're good to go. So this is the solution. So tomorrow you're going to get 6 questions. Look, you can go, babe. You're going to get 6 questions. Of those 6 questions, you have to check all of them. So it's a total of 12. Number 1, do it. Number 2, check. Number 3, do. Number 4, check. But make sure you guys, if you have any questions, watch this video. Go over it. You know, anything you want to.
Oh, sure.
Let me know. You guys want me to do that one I skipped?
Is it hard?
Let's just do it real quick.
No, I was asking if it's hard so you can do it.
Well, let's just do it real quick. What do you notice about 4 and about x to the 4th? Can we factor this?
Yes.
What's going to go in the front of each parenthesis?
X.
X squared. Good. What are the factors of positive 4? That give me a positive 4 when I multiply, but a negative 5 when I add. Negative 4 and negative 1. Can I factor this more?
Yeah. Divide by 2.
Not divide by 2. I could solve it from this point, or I could factor it more.
Square root it.
Okay, you want to solve it like this? Like that?
Yeah.
You guys see what we did? Since there's a minus in front, what's going to happen when I square root both sides? It doesn't cancel. But I have x equals what?
X equals
Plus or minus 1, and I have x equals
plus or minus 2.
plus or minus 2. So in this case, guys, I have x equals negative 1, x equals positive 1, x equals negative 2, x equals positive 2. How many solutions did I get?
4.
How many checks do I have to do?
4.
4. So you would come over here. It's not terrible. Negative 1 to the 4th minus 5 times negative 1 squared plus 4. Does that equal 0? Well, what's negative 1 to the 4th power? 1. What's negative 1 to the 2nd power? So 1 minus 5 plus 4 equals 0. What's 1 minus 5? Negative 4 plus 4. Does that equal 0? Yes. Okay, so what about if I plug in positive 1?
It's the same thing.
It is the same thing. So I get 0 equals 0. So what did you guys just prove to me about positive and negative 1?
They're both true.
They're both true. So let's do the same thing over here with 2. So I have negative 2 to the 4th minus 5 times negative 2 squared plus 4. Does that equal 0? What is negative 2 to the 4th power?
Positive.
16.
Oh, my bad.
All right. Then I have minus 5 times, what's negative 2 squared? 4 plus 4 equals 0. 16 minus 20 plus 4 equals 0. What's 16 minus 20?
4.
So I have negative 4 equals, so 0 equals 0. All right, so what happens when I plug in positive 2?
It's the same thing.
The exact same thing. The reason it's the same thing is because what do you notice about both the exponents?
They're even.
They're even.
So the exponents are even. It's always going to be, they're both going to be true.
Yeah, mostly. Because when you square a negative number, when you raise anything, a negative to any even power, it's going to become positive. It changes, though, when you have
A negative.
not a negative exponent, but an odd. Like
yeah.
3, 5, something like that. So how many solutions, ladies and gents, does this example have? 4. Was it incredibly hard for us to check? No. Was it kind of a pain in the butt? Yes, but that's okay.
This is kind of an easy one.
Yeah, it's not bad.
The amount of work that it all adds up to, the check and the regular, is equals to that work hard one.
Correct.
With just the regular.
Correct. All right, I will upload